In a draft class that's noted for its front seven defensive linemen, could the Arizona Cardinals be tempted by a top cornerback prospect, Johnny Venerable, Brack, PHNX Cardinals, and even after taking numerous corners in their first two drafts under Monty Ossenfort, is Will Johnson Jr. out of Michigan a logical target for the Redbirds come pick 16?
No doubt about it. I think he's the exception to this defensive front rule, right?
Yeah.
Where you would like to go defensive lineman, maybe edge. But if this caliber of prospect slides down the draft board because he was riddled by injuries, his I guess encore campaign after a national title, then you gobble him up. I think he's somebody that's a perfect scheme fit for Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawlis, what they want to do in the defensive secondary.
Yeah.
And they've sunk a lot of draft capital in that secondary, 3 top 100 picks the last 2 drafts. Why would you use one more? It's because you got a type of prospect that's 6'2", nearly 200 pounds in Will Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, again, like my preference is not to go off-ball anything, right? Wide receiver, cornerback. I think this team needs to focus on line of scrimmage players, but this is an exception, and you talked about it. Talked about it on our live show every day of PHNX Cardinals last year. Ossenfort and company, Dave Sears, the assistant GM, they want to take players like Joe Alt. They want to take line of scrimmage players early in the draft, but Marvin was an exception because he was such a high-caliber prospect at wide receiver. I think Will Johnson fits into that category. 6'2", just under 200 pounds. Physical player, right? He's got some poor man comps to Patrick Surtain, but he's a ball hawk. He can get his hands on the football. He can jump routes. He plays outside corner, which the Cardinals do need. Like Max Melton is a starter, right? Sean Murphy-Bunting, TBD, did not have a good year last year. We're told the team would like to move on. And then Garrett Williams, there's always room for a top-tier cornerback prospect in your room. But, the biggest question for me is, is he going to be there? Because you look at the teams that are picking ahead of Arizona, Dallas, Miami Dolphins, right? Of course, San Francisco 49ers. You make an argument every team picking ahead of the Redbirds could use a corner.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Especially with, Miami shopping Jalen Ramsey. It seems like it's inevitable. Our guy Benjamin Albright saying that deal's probably going to get done before draft day, but glaring holes all over that roster. Could a guy like Will Johnson, could he conceivably slide to the Arizona Cardinals? That's why we're talking about it. What's our guy Fran Duffy have to say in his breakdown of the Michigan ball hawk?
Let's talk through Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, 6'2", 194 pounds, was highly regarded as one of the top defensive players in this draft class coming into the year, was seen as a top 10 pick in basically every mock draft. I think some of the shine has worn off there a little bit. An injury-marred 2024 season, a lot to do with that. Missed a lot of time with a hamstring injury that has continued to plague him through the pre-draft process. Johnson saying after the team's pro day or before the team's pro day that he tweaked it during pro day prep, so he was not able to do a full workout at the pro day, so we won't get a full allotment of tests from Will Johnson. But at 6'2", 194, there's a lot to like here. Let's get into the strengths. To me, my favorite part of Johnson's game, his ability from off coverage, from depth, to his route anticipation, his ability to read things out, trigger, and go and make plays on the football. He can finish at the catch point. He's got great hands to be able to, when he sees things from depth, trigger and go. That's his game. Off coverage all day. And I love that with him. So if you're a team that doesn't play a ton of press and you like your corners off the ball where they can just kind of read and react and go, that is going to be the right type of system there for Will Johnson. A lot of people feel, 6'2", 194 pounds. He's a press man corner. He's got really short arms. He's got right around 30 inches. Some of the shortest arms you're going to see for a corner that's over 6'1". And his speed is a little bit questionable. I think the speed's a little bit better than people have given it credit for, but we're not going to get a 40 time on him, so it's always going to be a question with him. That said, I think that the speed is fine. The ball skills down the field, he can be a little bit slow to turn and find it. So again, from press man, I don't necessarily love Will Johnson, but if you're going to say, hey, you know what? Play an off man coverage, off zone coverage, and just read and react and go downhill and make plays on the ball, that is where his bread is buttered. When I think of Asante Samuel, who's got potentially a Hall of Fame type of career with the New England Patriots, then the Philadelphia Eagles, that's kind of the way I see Will Johnson's game. They're much different body types, but that's the skill set here for Will Johnson. I think when you're looking at him overall, again, we talked about some of the negatives. The hamstring, that's a little bit of a concern. Another player that kind of reminds me of from that standpoint was Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore, when he was coming out of Ohio State, he did not play a ton of football. He played less than 900 snaps over the course of his career. He was constantly injured, but He goes into that final season. There was great flashes. He makes plays on the ball. We saw 2 pick sixes from Will Johnson this year. So you saw the flashes this year, but the injury shortens because of the hamstring. That's the same thing that happened with Lattimore. He still ends up going in the top 15, turns into one of the best corners in the NFL. And while injuries were always kind of a part of the profile, he was a lockdown presence when healthy throughout the prime of his career. Could that be the same for Will Johnson? Time will tell. That said, I love the scheme fit from off coverage. I think he's got some matchup capabilities there in man-to-man. He's a really nice cover corner. Maybe not the ceiling people anticipated, we'll say 12 months ago. Still a guy that I think could be a number 1 type of corner for an NFL defense.
Great stuff from Fran. Of course, Will Johnson, Fran, CB2 behind Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
But he's basically CB1 for like the full-time corner, if that's what you want. You want to just go meat and potatoes, the number 1 full-time corner, by the way, that played at a better university.
I think he's more battle-tested,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. I know there are questions about Travis Hunter, and he's a generational athlete. Will Johnson, though, is, I don't like to use this term all that often, blue-collar lunch pail mentality. He was a national champion. And when that Michigan defense needed to rise to the occasion, 2 years ago en route to a championship, this past year when they were just screwing around late in the season and basically it looked like ended Ohio State's national championship berth at the end of the year, certainly ended their Big Ten title berth. He's a player that's a gamer, right? And the Cardinals need more of those. We've talked about it on our show. How many cornerstone players do the Cardinals have regardless of position? I think he's an immediate starter day one. I just don't know if he's going to be available.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with Will Johnson. I mean, if he gets to the Cardinals at 16, you run the card up to the podium, and you just wash your hands of it.
Yeah,
on to the second round potentially. And like when you see what Will Johnson would do to your overall draft, because of the depth at edge rusher, at defensive line, you get Will Johnson at the top of this draft, and then everything just kind of falls in line. Say you're able to get somebody like Landon Jackson in the second round, if he's there, or maybe Alfred Collins at the defensive line, and then you start to work on those positions, but you've got this big just tone setter for another strong draft potentially for Monty Austin-Fort. But you're right. I mean, I think this is one of those ones where it's like we're recording this, we're hopeful, but a lot would have to go right for Will Johnson to fall down the draft board.
I know people are concerned he didn't run the 40 time. You just got to trust your eyes, trust your scouts, right? There's a big difference between 40 time and game speed. And I think Will Johnson has plenty of NFL speed for the next level. What do you think? Will Will Johnson be available for the Cardinals at pick 16? If he's available, should the Cardinals take him? Subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. For Bo, I'm Johnny. Drop a comment, leave a like.